Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about Monday night's no good, awful, pitiful, very bad day. We'll be talking some Bulls. We've got some fun interactive things to do. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the Blackhawks coaches of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season's right here. It's upon us. So head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, going into this game against the Steelers, I figured that they were going to lose because I figured that the defensive front of the Pittsburgh Steelers would just dominate the Bears offensive line. And we would see a game sort of like what we saw with the Cleveland Browns. And we saw a lot more offense than I expected. The Bears were able to do some things at points, but in the end, you saw the same Bears bullshit over and over, and they had to overcome some of the worst officiating I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at last night's game from the perspective of the football fan, not just the Bears fan, from the football fan. It's Monday Night Football, nationally televised. A lot of people are watching. And what you saw were two really big things. One, you saw some awful officiating. And when that is the big topic of conversation by the national media, you know it was bad. On the other hand,
it was the announcers of the game, the national media, and the fans, and not just the fans of the Bears. Everybody. It was everybody that watched that game was like, oof, that was bad. I even saw a TikTok where it was a guy who was like, I'm a diehard Steelers fan and I desperately wanted to win this game. And he's like, I feel like Steelers fans owe the Bears fans an apology for how bad that officiating was.
When Urinating Tree says that was a farce, big Steelers fan, you know it was bad. And that was a big source of frustration. I mean, it's funny. Honestly, Sean, in the first quarter, I thought we were heading for another Tampa Bay game. The Bears got off to an awful start. It was brutal. But despite the range of emotions, frustration, anger, sadness, I think what at the end of the day we have to take away from this game is Justin Fields. Last week, he took a step forward. Last night, he took a leap forward. And we might be looking at this game in the long run as, you know what? The outcome is exactly what you'd want. We're not going on some phony playoff run that's going to keep the current regime here, but we're also seeing the growth of Justin Fields, and that really is, at this point, the ultimate goal. It's unfortunate, and it's quite irritating that a combination of the Bears shooting themselves in the foot and having to overcome some unbelievable trash calls had to ruin that great moment for Justin Fields. But you know what? Justin Fields went out there in the second half and he balled out. Matt Nagy was saying he was smiling on the sidelines saying, this is my moment. I'm ready for this. That's exactly the type of attitude you want from Justin Fields. And when we mean balling out in the second half, I mean he balled out in the second half. He made some unbelievably great throws. And that's another big topic of conversation, not only among Bears fans, but among many people. This is one of the many talented quarterbacks from this last rookie class. And he shined. He shined on Monday Night Football. And like I said, it's frustrating as hell that the team lost for various reasons. Frustrating as hell. But
it's not a various reasons. It's one reason. The poor officiating cost the Bears that game.
I mean,
I never want to say that. I will say it contributed, or no, the Bears would have won this game if the officials weren't atrocious. And the officials were so bad. And I will go back to Justin Fields in a second, but I'm just going to put this as a teaser, is the officials were so bad that I think an independent entity needs to go in and to see if there's point shaving.
I agree there needs to be some sort of investigation. I do. And I'm going to get on my opinions about that in a minute.
But Justin Fields was fantastic.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And honestly, I thought that game was the perfect opportunity for Justin Fields to show who he is. Because this is a big stage. This isn't playing the Lions at noon. This is Monday Night Football on the road in one of the hardest stadiums to play in Pittsburgh. It was the perfect opportunity to showcase what he can do, and he did it. And it was a great sign. It warmed my heart seeing him do what he did in that second half. The throw he made to Jimmy Graham downfield, the throw he made to Allen Robinson down the sideline, the touchdown throw to Darnell Mooney. It was just absolute beauty. And he looked cool, confident, and it looked like he legitimately was happy to be in that situation. Like, it was ideal for him. He's like, there is no better chance for me than to go here on the road and put together a go-ahead drive with just minutes left in the game and take the lead here. He was ready for that opportunity, and he made the absolute most of it. It was awesome. Awesome to see despite the outcome.
I'm just going to put this out there. Justin Fields was Pro Football Focus's highest graded quarterback in week 9.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot. I mean, that says a whole lot about where Justin Fields is. And the Steelers have a good defense.
Yeah, they do.
And, you know, he didn't get any extra time throwing the ball. You know, and the Bears didn't do him any favors in helping him either. Olin Kreutz kept tweeting out during the game, 0 boots, 0 rollouts. He just kept tweeting it because there wasn't one until I think the third quarter. There was a boot, and you know, you're not helping him out. You're not gearing the offense towards him, and it's just frustrating. But he's doing well despite Matt Nagy's offense, which is impressive.
I'm not expecting much from Matt Nagy. I'm really not. But I am praying for the outside chance that Matt Nagy says, you know what? If this kid can do all this, then let's cater more to him and let him run the show. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think so at all. I could just dream. I really could. Because what you saw last night, it was more than just him making some dink-dunk completions and eating just little chunks of yard by little chunks of yard. He was throwing dimes downfield. I mean, that sideline throw to Allen Robinson was just a chef's kiss.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the passes that he's completing deep, you're just like, when have we seen Bears quarterbacks do that? You know, we're always, the team goes, they're throwing it deep. They're not going to complete that. It's going to be
10
5
yards
yards
above Mooney's head.
Yeah, it's going to be 10 yards over or 5 yards under. And
Right.
but now we're completing those.
And the ball's out of his hand. They're like just perfect spiral, just rockets.
And the fact that, again, that he went up against one of the best defenses in the NFL in a hostile stadium during prime time and did what he did, like, all right, that is the makings of a good quarterback.
I also love the fact that after the game, I don't know if you heard this, how emotional Roquan Smith was. And Roquan Smith had another really impressive night. I mean, Roquan Smith, without Khalil Mack on the field, he is far and away their best defensive player. And it sounded like he was very emotional about the whole thing. And, we can talk about the relationship between the players and Nagy. I don't really know what it is behind the scenes, but I feel like whether you're an offensive player or a defensive player, these guys want to rally and win for Justin Fields. I know it's cliche. I know it's very, very, very just, of course, state of the obvious. But remember when Jay Cutler was the quarterback and there was clear division in that locker room, and there were there were people that in that locker room on that team that did not like Jay Cutler. But I see a team that is all in already around this quarterback. And I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
It says a lot.
When you have your defense is willing to run through walls for your quarterback, that says a lot. It says a whole lot. You see that in Buffalo. You see that in Green Bay. You see it in different places. And you're like, all right, that's what we want here. And that's what we have. There's a reason that right from the jump that the veterans all wanted Justin Fields to be the starting quarterback. Not because, it's clear Andy Dalton would have started the season doing better than Justin Fields. He's a veteran that has a pretty impressive resume in his career. Justin Fields is a rookie. You're going to go through all those rookie mistakes, but they just sensed the greatness that he's capable of achieving, and they just you want to be part of that. You don't rally behind Andy Dalton. No offense to Andy Dalton. That's not the guy he is. He's probably a leader in the huddle, and whatnot.
You can be a teammate and say, yeah, we respect Andy. We're going to play with him, but he's not at this point of his career. He's not going to bring you that energy, that next level of emotion where a talented young rookie quarterback with his life in football ahead of him, that's going to rally you together. It's going to be kind of like a motivational, again, this is all very cliche, but I think there's something to it. There's something to be said about how a young, talented guy coming into his own can just really bring a team together. And especially one that has a good attitude, a winning attitude, an attitude that's not going to give in or give up. And that's what Justin Fields has shown. And he's shown so much maturity and so much intelligence, drawing offsides on a hard count when you're in your 7th career start says a lot about your maturity, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And, I think, you want to, this is part of the reason why I think it makes sense to cut ties with Matt Nagy right now. And I'm going to tell you why. We're going to go past the obvious of he's a fucking terrible head coach, but you don't want to lose this camaraderie. You don't want to lose the momentum of Justin Fields. You don't want to lose the the rah-rahness of this all if you continue to lose without changes being made. If you make changes, you can continue that momentum. And even if you're losing, changes on the horizon, we're going to have a new head coach. We're going to have a new system we can build on. Not the same old that's failing us. And it's the perfect time. You've got 2 weeks. You had 2 weeks before your next game. Pull the plug, keep this momentum going without dragging it down. You're going to get a better performance out of Allen Robinson. You're going to get better performances by certain key guys that just clearly don't like Matt Nagy. I think it's time.
Well, I think it would be a time too during the bye week. I'm just not expecting it. I'm not expecting it, unfortunately. The one thing I will give Matt Nagy, I'm not saying suddenly he's going to be the offensive guru. Please, please, please do not take this as that. But, there was a lot made of the offense working better without Matt Nagy there against San Francisco 49ers. And, Matt Nagy came back, and in the first half, boy, did it look like it was going to revert back to awfulness. But the second half, and they ended up doing what they were doing. Boy, at least for his sake, that they actually scored more than 20 points in the game and had a chance to win thanks to the offense under Matt Nagy. You don't see that very often, but to your point, this is not going to be the regime that I want to have around with Justin Fields continuing to climb up. It's not. We're past that. We're past that. What I would love to see, which again, you're not going to, but I would love to see ownership or somebody say, look, we might be seeing progress from Justin Fields, but we're still not winning. We can't keep holding us to this mediocre standard. That's what really needs to happen. Again, you're not going to see it. Don't hold your breath. But with the bye week coming up, you have your bye week dead in the middle of the season. Like your season is split at your bye week half and half, and you're 3-6, and your chances of the playoffs are slim to none. Frankly, I think it's pretty much none, but you're always going to tell yourself you're in it until it's absolute zero. So all I can do is hope that the higher ups are really evaluating the situation and saying, look, we can't continue these ways. We're trying to win. And while you're seeing great progress from Justin Fields, you're not winning. Even if you did win yesterday, you'd still be going to the bye week sub 500. Now, 4-5 and 3-6 is quite the difference, but still you'd be sub 500. And then coming out of the bye week, you have a very tough game. Because I believe it's the Ravens out of the bye, if I remember correctly.
It is the Ravens out of the bye. And if I am recalling correctly, Matt Nagy has never won the game after a bye.
When's the last time the Bears have won the game after a bye, period? You remember 2017 with John Fox? Remember when they got crapped out of that touchdown call with Zach Miller where he almost died in New Orleans and that cost them the game? They had the bye week after that. And after that bye week was the infamous Brett Hundley loss to the Packers at Soldier Field.
That injury on that, what should have been a touchdown, and then they took it away from him. That injury was brutal. I was at Gary's house watching that game, and he went upstairs to get something for one of his kids. And he came back and he's like, what did I miss? I was like, don't watch the replay. And he's like, I'm going to watch the replay. I'm like, I swear, don't watch that replay. I'm like, it's gross. I'm like, you don't need to see it. And he watched it and he was like, why'd you let me watch that? Like, I was trying to tell you not to. I was trying.
Harry,
watch
next
that.
time Sean says don't watch something, don't watch it.
Oh, it's tough. Like it's like burned into my brain.
He's one of my all-time favorite Bears, Zach Miller. I love the guy. And I love the fact that one medical assistant or doctor, whoever it was, said, yo, this is serious. He needs to go to a hospital right now because that saved his life. And I love how Zach Miller has turned everything that could have been so tragic, that play that ended his career, but he turned everything into such a positive. And the way he's staying, within Bears fandom is really admirable. Like, I will always be a huge fan of Zach Miller. It was heartbreaking that his career had to end like that because he was a good player.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he almost had to have that leg amputated after.
Yeah.
Not immediately, but like a while after. That was a bad injury.
Oh, just awful.
You see other injuries like the Joe Theismann and things like, you're like, okay, those look gross, but when you get the nerve involvement,
yeah, just awful. Just awful. So glad he's still here and with us today.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if the Bears have won after their bye week since 2013.
It wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me because 2016, the year before 2017, they won 3 games total. So I don't think that was in there. 2015, I don't remember when their bye was, but you could be right. It's been a long time since they won after their bye. And I mean, in 2018, I remember their bye week was after the Thanksgiving game, and then they lost to the Giants. That was excusable because that was a trap game and they ended up winning the North by a lot anyway. So whatever. But all those other times, it's remarkable how bad that team looked coming out of the bye. Wasn't last year the blowout at Lambeau Field? Wasn't that the game after the bye?
Maybe.
I know it was a loss. I just can't. I thought it was that one, but I could be mistaken. But you're looking at a situation now where you're coming off this bye and you got to play Baltimore. And that is no easy task. I'm not saying Baltimore is invincible because, frankly, no AFC team looks completely unbeatable. Every one of those AFC teams looks like they have chinks in the armor, but still, it's no easy task to face against Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, let's see. 2018, they lost the game after the bye to the Dolphins. See, 20.
Wait, it was the game it was the Dolphins game?
2018 was the Dolphins.
Was it? Oh, maybe I'm just thinking I was thinking the Giants game because the Bears played on Thursday and they didn't play until the next Sunday. So that's probably what I was thinking.
Yeah, that was like a week and a half. Let's see. 2017 was the loss to the Packers.
Brett Hundley.
Yeah.
The pile on. You won the challenge, but you lost the ball.
See, 2016.
You have 13 losses to choose from.
The Buccaneers game was 2016.
Oh no, that was the Chris Conti revenge game.
Yeah. Let's see, 2015.
2015. That wasn't after the Thanksgiving upset at Green Bay, was it?
2015 was 23-20 loss to the Vikings.
Oh yeah, that they had the lead late, and yeah, okay, I remember that game. That was like the first win for the Vikings at Soldier Field since like 2007.
Let's see. 2014.
Oh, 2014 was wasn't that
That was
was
Green Bay.
that was the embarrassment, the
Yep.
massacre.
Yep. So
Because
they had the blowout by the Patriots.
which
Then
Lamar Houston tore his ACL celebrating a
Right.
sack of the backup.
Then you had your bye week, and then the blowout by the Packers,
That was the historical embarrassment.
and then you had back-to-back wins, and then you ended the season with 5 straight losses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. So that's man, the Bears are pathetic after the bye.
Did they win after the bye in 2013?
I'm looking. Yes, 2013 was the last time they beat the Packers 27-20. Josh McCown.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Just for the crap of it, I don't remember when the bye week was in 2012. I know they remember that year they started 7-1 and then they went 10-6 and missed the playoffs. I just don't remember when the bye week was.
They won going into the bye week. They beat Jacksonville 41-3.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then they followed it up. They beat the Lions after the bye 13-7.
Oh, yeah, okay. That was at Soldier Field, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that bye was very early. The bye was October 14th.
Yeah.
So it was week 6.
Well, I think the Bears have the most ideal bye you can have, like right in the middle of the season.
They have like the schedule composition this year is pretty good. No consecutive road games and the bye in the middle of the season.
It's just the opponents are tough.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, but and they won in 2011. They won coming out of the bye too. They went to Philadelphia and won.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, all in all, they've been since Lovie Smith, they've been terrible after games after the bye.
Trestman, Fox, Nagy have a combined 1 win after the bye week. There you go.
That is brutal to think. You have 3 coaches and they have 1 combined win after the bye.
And that's nearly a decade's worth. Not quite, but nearly a decade's worth of seasons.
Right. But going back to this game, we've established Justin Fields that we liked. Another player I think is on the rise, Larry Borum, is I like him. I think he's going to be a good player. And I'm hoping, we should be seeing Tevin Jenkins soon. And I don't know what they do with him now because you're not going to bench Jason Peters. Larry Borum has been pretty darn good. I don't know if the other option is you kick one of your guards to center, sit Mustafa, move Borum into the guard, and then put Tevin Jenkins on the right side. Because both guards have experience at center. Because James Daniels was a center in college. And Whitey Coathair was a center for a couple of years for the Bears.
Whitey Coathair.
He'll never not be Whitey Coathair to me. Oh, Wani. Why? With the Whitey Coathair.
Yeah, Whitey Coathair.
But I mean, that might be your best option because Sam Mustafa has been brutal this year. And I know it hasn't been easy because he's just faced like big nose tackle after big nose tackle, but he's brutal. And, so maybe you kick one of those guards into center sit Mustafa and move Borum to guard and Tevin Jenkins to right tackle. And try to ride the rest of the season out with that, because I don't think you bring back Jason Peters next year because he's going to be 400 years old.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be his last year in the NFL.
I think so too. But he's playing well.
For his age, yeah, he is.
He's been the Bears' best offensive lineman.
Yeah, well.
The Bears need more from the wide receivers. It was nice to see David Montgomery come back and just look like he never was injured ever.
Yeah, that was a good sign. That was a really good sign because Dave Montgomery having that dynamic run game back, and hey, you know what? Khalil Herbert did a hell of a job filling in, but having him back and you'll be able to mix and match Khalil Herbert and Montgomery more, that's a good sign.
And you finally threw a screen pass to David Montgomery, and it turned out well. It was like your first screen pass. I think maybe the second screen pass they've thrown this season. They just don't throw screen passes. And it's funny because, Matt Nagy will be like, oh, I learned under Andy Reid. Andy Reid has 400 different screen passes. It's like you just went and stole the tight end plays and forgot about everything else.
He's stealing all the different Andy Reid books as he's leaving Kansas City. He's putting it in the back of his pickup truck. He starts driving off and all but one book just go flying out the back.
You just see him. He's got it stuffed in his pants and he's got like his sweatpants on. People are looking and he's like, what are you checking out my goods? And they're like, does he have a notebook in his pants?
He's like waddling as he's going along.
It's like an 8.5 by 11 square or a rectangular protrusion out of his man. But yeah, it's ridiculous. So, but it was nice to see David Montgomery come back and look good. I would have liked to have seen a little more Khalil Herbert too, and give that 1-2 punch. But they didn't sustain enough offensive plays to be able to do that. Defensively, they miss Khalil Mack. They miss him bad.
Big time.
They have not gotten any pressure on quarterback since he's gone down.
I'm going to say this, regardless of the reffing last night, I think if Khalil Mack plays, they win.
Probably, because you would have got to Ben Roethlisberger. Because anytime they got to him, he's not the same Ben Roethlisberger when he was young. That could, Ben was never a fast guy, but he was so big and strong, and he was agile in the pocket. So, if you grabbed him with a hand or an arm, like he was breaking that. And he was just nimble in the pocket and couldn't get that play off. Now he's just like, he is a statue back there. He is way worse than Tom Brady or some of the other guys we call statues. Like Ben Roethlisberger is the worst.
Yeah, I mean, he's a shell of his former self. Let's be real. And that was most likely the last time the Bears will ever face him.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way that they're ever facing Ben Roethlisberger again. In a regular season game.
No.
But when they tried to do that bootleg to run for the first down, he was so slow. So slow.
I felt the ground thud from here.
But you saw the linebacking play was fine. But the defensive backs were just brutal. We need a major upgrade there, because if the Bears aren't getting pressure with the base front package, then those corners are getting burned.
Yeah. And Early in the game, you saw something similar that happened last week. Kindle Vildor was on the guy, but couldn't make a play on the ball. And it ended up being a big game, just like last week.
But, I want to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. We've alluded to it quite a bit, but the officiating was so bad. So bad.
It was brutal. It was Sean, look. I am the type of guy that says typically, look, calls are going to be missed. There's going to be some bad calls, missed calls. Refs are humans. They're going to miss things. There's a lot going on. It's a very tough job. It's never going to be perfect. Okay, we know it's never going to be perfect, and it usually evens itself out. But last night, okay, I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat. And how do I put this delicately? To my eyes, it looked like this wasn't human error. There were times it legitimately looked intentional that calls were or were not being made. And I am typically not one to go down that road, but here's the thing. What happened in the NFL this year, business-wise? Do you have any idea where I'm going with this?
Oh, absolutely. They partnered with gambling.
Yes. And conveniently, they made rules that could allow officiating to make big changes in game momentum with a call. Now, is this me saying I know for a fact that there was rigging involved? No, but look at sports the past month, not just the NFL. Look at sports as a whole over the past month. What have we seen? Stuff that has been covered up, leaking out. All sorts of stuff. Whether it's lying about COVID vaccines or sex scandals or stuff going on with ownerships, whether it's, more stuff with Dan Snyder or the Suns owner, all this stuff is coming out that you didn't think was going on. With everything that has come out, sports doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt right now. And I think we as fans have every right to at least ask questions.
Absolutely. And, it's one thing. And what made it worse is when Tony Correnti was asked about some of the calls, he flat out lied. Is what he said, what we watched on video in instant replay, in slow motion, from multiple angles, don't align. And the NFL was so quick to just agree with him and give zero credence, makes us, it's gaslighting us. Maybe there's not. Maybe just Tony Correnti was having a bad day and just was pissed off about something and just blew calls. And there's no scandal other than just he was bad.
Right. Yeah.
That might be the case.
It could be. It very well could be.
But we are being told that what we're seeing with our eyes is not right, and that the NFL is flawless. That's what the NFL is telling us, and Tony Correnti is telling us.
And look, it's not just calls that were made. It's the calls that weren't made. When Justin Fields is getting hit in the head late, and they're not calling anything. That's an issue. And I don't want to hear he's a rookie, he has to earn it. The rules should apply to Justin Fields the way they apply to Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger. It doesn't matter what your status is. The rules are the rules, and they should be enforced equally no matter who is under center.
Yeah, like the one where he was a runner and he gave himself up. And sure, he gave himself up late, and if you hit him, okay, but how hard they hit him, no, that's uncalled for. He did give himself up when the guy took 4 steps before hitting him after he threw. Like that is a definition of a late hit. Absolute definition of it.
Mm-hmm.
The Jalen Johnson pass interference at the end of the game, dog shit. Just that's a brutal call.
Brutal call, dog shit. Unfortunately, that brutal call happens a lot, but yes, dog shit.
It's, and it's, I get when that's called, when they don't turn their head around, but there was no, like, the only contact was initiated by the wide receiver. He didn't make, like, you have to get together with the other officials and make that correct. Like, you can't, that's bad. That was a bad call. There's times where I don't agree with it and I'm pissy, but I'm sitting there watching slow motion. But watching that live, I was like, where? And then when they show the replay, like, and then the ultimate is Cassius Marsh, where they threw the taunting call at him, and you went back and watched. Number one is he did his thing in the middle of the field.
He didn't say anything. And he looked at the bench. And that's all he did.
And what about TJ Watt? Why wasn't it taunting when he went over there and was close to the sideline and made a signal to the Bears sideline? Or when the entire defense of the Steelers runs down and poses for the camera. Why isn't that taunting?
But looking over at the sideline from the middle of the field and not say anything is.
Yeah.
And listen,
it was clear. Tony Correnti, as Cassius was running by, he hip checked him and threw the flag. That is exactly when it happened. He was not throwing it until that moment. Then he threw the flag, and that is wrong. He should be fired. That's a fireable. That all the other ones are, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. Reprimand. That's a fireable one. That's a Joe West move where you inserted yourself into the game.
I mean, he clearly initiated that contact, and people can argue with me over and over whether or not he was reaching for the flag or not. That's not the point. Even if he intended to throw the flag, no matter what, the fact that he clearly saw him coming, stood there, and then just scooted over to initiate the contact and then threw the flag. And tell me this, if you were going to throw the flag for staring down the sideline for 2 seconds, why did you wait until after he passed you? If you thought he was taunting by going over by the sidelines, why didn't you throw the flag then and there? That was a late flag. You threw it after you bumped into him.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just absolutely no way that is not an intentional bad call.
And they're not going to look into it. They're not going to. And look, they're either not going to look into it for 2 reasons. One, that they just don't want to reprimand the referees and they don't think it's worth it. And there's nothing more to that. Or 2, NFL's in on it. And again, I'm not saying I know for a fact that it was rigged. I'm not saying I can't sit here and say 100% it was, but damn it, we have a right to ask questions. With what we saw, bad calls happen all the time. Sometimes it's just human error. It happens. It's a tough job. I couldn't do it. But when you see that replay between Marsh and the referee, that we have every damn right to question what was going on with the referees that night. And you know what, Sean? You didn't even ask. We didn't even bring this up either. The touchdown
called back.
Daniels didn't even touch him.
Yep. He was number 1. He was still within the tight end box. Still in there. So
whether
it
he
was
was in the tight end box or not, he didn't even touch him.
I mean, but even if they were like, oh, even if they thought he touched him, he's still within the boundaries of when
Of
he's
course.
allowed to do
Yes.
it. So
Yes.
it's a double whammy. He's still within the boundaries of where he's allowed to do it, and he missed. So it's a double whammy. It's a double whammy, and they took a touchdown off the board and moved them far enough back that there was no way they were going into the end zone on that drive. And so you just had so many absolute blatant bad calls, and the disproportionate number of calls going towards the Bears at critical times. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Like, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. We definitely landed on the moon. There's no microchip in the vaccine. Tupac is dead. So is Elvis. Like, I'm not that guy.
You kidding? I saw Elvis on the street the other day.
But this is something that needs to get looked into seriously.
It has to. It has to.
If it's not a bigger thing, does he gamble? Does Tony Correnti gamble on games?
That you got to find that shit out, man. And look, you know what? They do an investigation and they don't find anything, then okay, you don't find anything. It was just a bad night. Okay. But you cannot justify just letting this slide. You can't. Sean, here's something. We are 24 hours after that game. Not even technically 24 hours after the bad call. Highlight Heaven on YouTube posted the Cassius Marsh horrible time to call versus Steelers. It already has well over 300,000 views. There's already a compilation of bad calls against that game on YouTube as well. And everyone has talked about it. Everyone's talked about it.
We live in a contrarian society where if you say the sky is blue on the internet, you're going to have a bunch of people telling you, no, it's green.
Right.
Have you found a single person that has defended that call?
No.
Not even from Steeler fans. Steeler fans are just like, yeah, I don't know what happened there. Like, this is so atrociously bad that, like, honestly, the NFL needs to actually investigate this. This is like not even the NFL. Like, this, there should be an independent, like, George McCaskey should go to the owners meeting and be like, this is some bullshit. Seriously, this is bullshit.
Hey, Jenner and Block, you want another case related to sports?
Yep. Because here's the thing is Roger Goodell works for the owners. They hire him. And, like, if I was George McCaskey, I would be petty and I would be calling for his job if he doesn't fix this. The NFL is far and away the biggest sports league. They don't have dedicated officials. They have part-time officials. And when I bring this up, people are like, well, why? Well, what are they going to do? They play, once a week or a couple of days a week. You know what? You know what they should be doing the rest of the time? They should all be flying into a central location or having Zoom meetings and doing training sessions during the week. Go back and everybody during the week watches their games that they officiated and the other games, critique each other, work on it, be like, all right, this was called this. This was not called this. Have the head official be like, yeah, this is what we're trying to call. This is not what the spirit of what we're trying to do is, or yeah, we got this one right. And you work on your craft, because I'm gonna tell you, it's probably not being easy being an NFL official.
Of course not.
And we saw we saw when the replacement refs were in how bad they were. And the last 2 seasons, we had a bunch of senior officials retire, and the product has gotten worse. Like, you have better officiating when you have people that have been doing it a long time and they're dedicated to what they do. And the NFL, these guys all have other jobs. Is even if you bump up their pay, make that be their primary job where they train all year long and figure out what they're trying to do, what the spirit of the rule is, and align to what they're calling, and get it right. Because that's how, people always say there's going to be a chink in the armor of the NFL at some point. And I really think it's going to be officiating. Is, the kneeling thing. People are like, oh, it's going to be the kneeling. I don't think that was. It's either going to be a lockout or officiating that causes fans to walk away. Because when you feel like it's not fair, that's a quick way to lose people for good.
Absolutely. And Sean, you made a really good point earlier about saying how these officials are part-time hires of the NFL. As far as I know, they're not unionized. I don't think they are. Because MLB umpires are. And that gets to a whole other sticky mess. But look, you can't sit there and do nothing when this happens. And this was not some random Lions-Eagles game at noon. This was Monday Night Football. Big market versus big market. A lot of people were watching this game. It was on the national stage. Could you imagine if this happened in a playoff game?
Yeah, it's a black eye. Like, those are the things, the big spectacular plays are always remembered, and the absolute dog shit officiating plays are always remembered. People remember those bad plays, or those bad play calls, or officiating calls.
Who could forget the Fail Mary?
Yeah. Like, people never forget those. They never forget those.
No.
I still to this day is what's his name? The wide receiver for the Lions, when the completing the process.
Calvin Johnson, the Johnson rule. Yeah.
Like, still to this day, like, that gave the Bears a victory, and it's a tainted victory. That was absolutely a catch.
Yeah, that was absolutely. That was awful. I'm embarrassed of the NFL, and that was an absolute, win for the Bears by that play. Remember the Lions when they had that flag picked up in the playoff game against the Cowboys in 2014?
Yeah, or when the Cowboys had who was it? Dez Bryant, yeah. And
yep.
Just we remember these plays, like, when it's the bad officiating that we're remembering, those get burned into your brains, where you're just like, that was an unjust moment and there was no way to fix it. And honestly, if I were the coach of the Bears, like, I would have gotten escorted out of there. I would have thrown the red flag at the official in their dumb faces every time, knowing full well that there's nothing reviewable. I would just throw things. And
honestly, go on the field, slam your headset down. Who cares how much you get fined? Rip him in the post game. I mean, honestly, I really wish Matt Nagy would have stuck up for his team more on that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I meant to write that down, and I was like, I'll remember it, and I totally forgot. But that was something I was so mad about, is why aren't you defending your players? Is At the moment, you should have been more vocal. And after the game, when you're saying, I'm not going to say anything, say something. Get that fine. You get paid, what, $5 million a year? Eat that fine. Take that fine. Take that on the chin. No one getting your players' backs.
It's like a trip to Burger King for you, like fine wise.
I mean, nobody wants the $50,000 fine or whatever they're going to give him. Like, it still sucks, but you eat that and you say, that's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And the refs did us dirty. The NFL needs to look into that. And you take that and you'll get a call from Roger Goodell, but you're getting fired anyway. So what are they going to do?
Sean, I picture you in that same situation as the Bears head coach. You're at the podium and you are losing your mind. Like, veins are bulging and like you're sweating. And then two macho security guys come and pick you up one arm by one. And as they carry you away, you're still yelling and just kicking your legs really hard and just screaming at the top of your lungs. That would be a sight to see. That is what I wish Matt Nagy would have done.
You would have seen me have a Dennis Green moment at the podium about the NFL officiating. They are who we thought they were.
I don't want, I'm going to go full meatball for a second and just say, I'm going to embrace the Swerski right now. I'm going to go full meatball and say, if Dick were the head coach, there's no way he'd be saying what Matt Nagy said in that press conference. No way.
No. And honestly, like, if I were in Matt Nagy's shoes and had the opportunity to coach the Bears, like, I would have been very vocal and I would have, signed off with, I know this is going to get me a phone call from Roger Goodell, and I promise you, he's not going to like the end result of that call.
Seriously. I would have gone Three Stooges on the ref, do the eye poke and take my hat off and like smash it over his head.
Yeah, like, honestly, if you're a player, how do you not look at this? Like, next time that you have that officiating crew, how do you not just want to run right through them on a play?
I mean, I would look at that and be like, well, what's going to happen now? What are we, if we even look at the other team, are we going to get flagged? If we make a tackle, are we going to get flagged?
It's mind numbing. And I hate to be like, when there's bad officiating, typically, the calls may have been more detrimental to your team, but usually you see it on both sides.
It evens out
along the way, and you're mad about it. And it came at a bad time or whatever, but this was so lopsided. I don't even know how to put it into words.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard when we can obviously sit here and point to many other reasons why the Bears didn't win this game, because look, the offense did not do well at all in the first half. A lot of those flags early on were legitimate. You were offsides or an eligible man downfield. They were very undisciplined. Even with the absolute trash officiating, the Bears were undisciplined. I don't know what the heck Robert Quinn was doing on that final drive. Guy who's actually been playing pretty well this year, but dude, like, come on, man. This is crucial. All they needed was a field goal, and you know that. They can't be busting coverage. They can't be offsides. That's on the Bears. The Bears made plenty of mistakes in this game, but the Bears also did a lot of good things, mainly Justin Fields, to put them in a position which should have won them the game. And unfortunately, there were circumstances that prevented them from doing that outside of their control. That's just, it's a shame that this had to happen when Justin Fields came out, when he really blossomed into what we hope that he could be. It's just a shame.
Adam Johns posted earlier, a couple hours ago, a photo of the all-22 on the Cairo Santos 65-yard field goal. And TJ Watt is lined up off sides.
Of course.
Where was Tony Correnti on that one? He called it 12 times on the Bears.
That would have moved him, 5 yards closer?
It makes
Dude, Cairo Santos did not miss by much.
That 5 yards would have been a hit.
I mean, honestly, that was a great kick.
Cairo Santos, I hope that doesn't hurt his confidence, because what would you have done in that situation?
You know what? I'm going to defend Matt Nagy. That's kind of a tough call.
I agree. That's what I said. I was like, everyone is shitting on Matt Nagy about this. But honestly, is your offensive line is bad. They're going to pin their ears back and go after Justin Fields. What are the odds that you're even going to get enough time to have your players run down the field and get to the end zone?
The odds of a Hail Mary are so slim.
And with how bad those officials are and how bad the calls have gone against you, there's no way they're not going to call an offensive pass interference, even if you do catch it. And the 65-yarder, it's not the longest field goal in NFL history. It's a tough place to kick. And Cairo Santos is very good. He doesn't have a Justin Tucker leg. Not very many people do. But at least the field goal gives you an opportunity. Had they called that penalty, then it makes it a 60-yard field goal. That's still long, but he didn't miss that by 5 yards.
Sean, I'm going to be honest with you. When that was up and coming, I thought for a second that he was going to make it. I really did. That was on line perfect, and it kept coming closer and closer. And as it was coming down, I'm like, oh my God, is he actually going to make this? And then obviously it didn't. And the replay made it look like it doinked, but it didn't. It was, 5 or whatever yards short. But yeah, I'm not upset at Matt Nagy for going with the field goal. I'm not. I know that it was a long shot, but you know what? I think a Hail Mary, even with Justin Fields playing the way he was, I think that was an even longer shot. I think you were playing with like a 2% chance versus like a 0.5% chance.
Yeah, I mean, there was so little chance of making that field goal. But I still think there was a better shot of making that field goal than
I agree.
The Hail Mary.
Neither odds were great, but yeah, I would have put my money on the field goal. I would have. And, it ain't Cody Parkey up there or Connor Barth or whatever. Cairo Santos, if he would have made that field goal, I believe he would have broken the record for all-time made field goals consecutively. He had 40 consecutive made field goal attempts. And there is no shame in that streak ending just barely missing a 60-plus yarder. Like, I give him a lot of credit. That was a good kick. Just not quite there. Justin Tucker, he is the greatest kicker of all time. I think that is set in stone. He is the greatest kicker of all time.
Like Justin Tucker will probably make the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And there's not it's a very, very thin company with with kickers in the Hall of Fame.
But Justin Tucker's earned it. No question.
Yeah. So, how many dedicated kickers are in the Hall of Fame? Jan Stenerud. Morton Anderson, did he make it?
I don't know. Let me look that up. I think so, but I could be wrong. Morton Anderson.
And Morton Anderson, when he retired, was the all-time points leader in NFL.
Yes, he is in the Hall of Fame.
So, George Blanda kicked, but he didn't go in as a kicker.
No.
Jim Thorpe kicked. but he wasn't a kicker. Doak Walker, I think, kicked. He wasn't a kicker. Jerry Kramer, Hall of Famer, he was a kicker, but that's not what he went in for. So really 2 dedicated kicker, Jan Stenerud, Morten Anderson. Third is going to be Justin Tucker. And that makes sense. And you know, on a slight tangent is I was watching some highlights of college games that I didn't watch.
Mhm.
And San Diego State has a punter who has 3 consecutive games where he had a punt that went 80 yards in the air.
Ooh.
He's broken the collegiate single season number of punts over 60 yards in the first 5 games of the season this year. Like, he is unreal.
Matt Araiza, I think that's how you pronounce it.
They had I forgot who they were playing their last game, but they put 2 punt returners, and they put one at the normal spot, and then they put another one like way behind him, and he still kicked over both of their heads.
Wow, I'm watching these highlights right now on my screen.
It's unreal. I was joking with a friend of mine today. I was like, man, the Bears should use their 2nd round pick on him because he'll be their offensive MVP.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. Wow.
Like,
good grief.
I bet that dude gets drafted in the 3rd round.
Oh, there's no question this dude's going to the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
No question.
But I think he gets drafted at a pretty high spot because that's a weapon with a guy that can kick that far.
God, I'm watching these highlights. Holy smokes.
It's unreal.
That's awesome. I love a good special teams player. Speaking of special teams players, I want to bring up another play in the Bears game yesterday. And you know what play I'm going to talk about when I say, dang it, Bears, why couldn't you have brought Cordero Patterson back?
It could have been any number of ones where they brought it out of the end zone and didn't get even to the 20.
I'm talking about the fumble.
That's a bad one too.
But yeah, every time he took it out, it was like 17, 18, whatever. I'm like, dude, just let it bounce in the end zone. Just take the touchback.
Yeah. And Cordero Patterson has also been a force in the offensive game for the Falcons.
Everything Cordero Patterson has done for the Falcons is what I wanted Matt Nagy to use while he was a Bear. When the Bears got Cordero Patterson, I was jumping for joy. I said, this is exactly what the Bears need. Exactly what the Bears need. A multi-gadget guy who is the best special team player in the NFL right now. God, I wish they would have brought him back. Next year, bring him back. I think he's only on a 1-year deal.
I think he might be.
Honestly, that height playing with Justin Fields, I can dream.
I know. And plus he was just so vocal about bringing guys to the Bears and recruiting. Like, you liked that attitude.
That's such an attitude that even the meaty meatballs would love to have, up there in the higher ups. So why wouldn't you bring him back?
But you needed the money to pay Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, right.
To get 3 targets this season.
Yeah. One was a dropped pass in the end zone. Good throw to him down the field later in the game, but that should have been a touchdown too. That one I can't blame on the refs. That was just a drop.
Yeah, but at least the Bears have a bye week coming up. And but you're right. I don't have a lot of confidence going into that game after the bye against the Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens, listen, the Ravens are a beatable team. They're 6-2 right now. They've got dominated by the Bengals. I watched them get dominated for the first half against the Vikings.
Me too.
And they're not a beast of a team. They have the capability to be, but that defense is suspect.
Yeah, it is. Kirk Cousins put up 31 points on them.
I think you can. The problem with the Bears is they can't start the game fumbling and faltering and tripping over themselves with 3 and outs. And
yeah, you
negative
can't.
plays.
Right, you can't only score 3 points in the first half
because the Bears are going to have a tough time containing Lamar Jackson and that offense.
Right.
And the Bears, if they're going to win that game, they're going to have to, even when they're not scoring, they're going to have to be like they were against the 49ers and consistently moving the ball and at least getting close to field goal range every time and putting some points on the board, because 20 points from your offense is not going to do it. And, that's what the Bears scored, because 7 of those points were a defensive touchdown.
Right.
Or special teams. The offense need to score more points, and they can't lose the field position battle like they did this game. They need to control the clock, keep their defense fresh, because they're going to be running all over the place with Lamar Jackson. One thing I'm going to say with Justin Fields is he's so fast, but his running plays are not, you're not seeing him being able to get to the open field like you do with Lamar Jackson.
Right. They're different types of runners.
They're different types of runners, but I think he needs to be more decisive when he's going to tuck it and run. He needs to just tuck it and run.
Mm-hmm.
It's when he hems and haws and gets caught in that middle, do I pass, do I throw? And that's when the running lanes break down and he ends up having to run backwards to go around. And then by that time, guys in the NFL are fast. They're going to cut you off and minimize the run, the yards you're going to get. Whereas if he just tucked it and run, he has to be more visible of when the pocket opens up for him to run straight. Is there somebody that, is coming around the edge? It's going to, cut you off. And the Bears need to be better about designing run plays, design rollouts and bootlegs, like get him moving. The most beautiful pass probably one of the most beautiful passes he's threw was rolling to his left and throwing. And that was a beautiful pass. Get him rolling out and utilize your tight ends more. Jeez Louise, man.
Yeah. Agree with all that.
Just frustrating. Should we move on to Bulls?
Yeah, because while the Bears game was going on, they won a very big game at the United Center.
Yeah, they did. And it was looking like it was going to be a tough loss against the Nets, because they were the Bulls were down at going into halftime.
Yeah, the Nets had the momentum going into the half.
And I was like, oof. But the Bulls came out in the third and fourth quarters and just looked really good. And, this is, at first we're like, okay, well, they lost to the Knicks. That was a test. Are they not as good as we thought? They beat the Jazz, which the Jazz were, a lot of people have as their number one in the power rankings. So the Jazz are a legit team, and they beat the Jazz good. They beat the Nets now, beat the Nets by a lot. The Achilles heel is seeming to be the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is honestly Vooch needs to play better. Joel Embiid is really good, and he's the difference maker there.
And he can agitate you, man. He agitates me.
And but Vooch needs to be better, and he's had a rough season so far.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we all know Vucevic isn't a good defender. He's never going to be a defender, but he is expected to be the big man that could score. And we've seen his shooting really, really struggle this year. It's unfortunate to see. Am I panicking yet? No, but you want to see him start to heat up more consistently pretty soon, because your schedule isn't getting any easier. You're going to play a Mavs team on Wednesday, and then I believe you got to go to New York and play the Knicks again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty tough schedule to begin, but man, the Bulls are looking good. The back-to-back against the Sixers was a tough one. I watched.
If they played just a little better in that one in Philadelphia, they could have won that. Unfortunately, they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little too much.
But the thing on that one is, they had no business being in that game, and it came down to they almost won it.
Yeah, and they came back again.
Yeah, they came back from a mile. They were I think 15 down or 18 down. They came back, and they were just I think they went on like a 12-0 run to spark that. They had no business being in that game, and that was with Zach LaVine having a piss poor shooting night.
Yeah, that was probably one of his worst games as a Bull in a while.
Him and Vooch had bad nights. It was DeMar DeRozan was carrying that team on his back, and they almost came back. If Vooch plays better against the 76ers, I think they can beat them. That 76ers team is a good team. It's they just need Zach to shoot better, and they need Vooch to shoot better. And stop the goofy turnovers.
And yet Zach LaVine still puts up 20 plus points a night.
That's true.
I can't say enough though about how wrong so many people were about the Bulls getting DeMar DeRozan. There is no way they are where they are without DeMar DeRozan.
Oh, absolutely not.
That guy is a baller. And I'd say he's your MVP right now.
He's been fantastic. Yeah, in that 76ers game, he dropped 37.
Yeah, effortlessly.
And so I like this Bulls team. I think they're good.
Kobe White's coming back soon.
Yeah, he's in practice now. He can now have contact in practice. So
I believe he's heading to the Windy City Bulls for rehab.
Yeah, so we'll probably
big news.
Yeah, we'll see him anytime now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say this every week. My man Ayo Dosunmu. He's doing stuff, man.
He looks like he belongs.
He does. And the team loves him. His teammates love him. Billy Donovan loves him. Arturas Karnisovas loves him. It's so great.
That was a big pickup. And not just like his scoring ability, but the team plays really well when he's on the floor. Like, they were a plus 22 when he was on the floor against the Nets.
It feels like every game Ayo Dosunmu plays, he's progressing. He's doing things that you would expect, of veteran players. And look, he's got a lot to learn. There's things to clean up and learn, but as long as he's doing stuff positive, like the way he is you take that. The way he's trending, this can look like an absolute steal in the draft. How he fell that far, I think teams might regret passing up on him. And it's exciting to say the Bulls finally got that better end of the deal.
Yeah, I mean, what pick was he?
He was in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have an NBA player in the second round, like usually they don't pan out. Everyone will cherry pick and be like, "Oh, this guy in the second round, Tony Parker in the second round, or um, Jimmy Butler in the second round." But as a whole, you don't really do much with second round picks. And this one, is he going to be a superstar? Probably not. But can he be a significant contributor to a good team? Yeah, he's doing so right now.
Absolutely. Now, Sean, if you allow me to just express one concern, I really wish the Bulls had a guy like a Kyle Korver who could just come off the bench and just pop the three-pointer, because the Bulls are among the lowest of the league in 3 points. And I believe it's both made and attempted. And, if you said that you're not making a bunch of threes in 2001, it might be a different story. But in this day and age, you see a lot of good teams have the ability to shoot the three. And when you're able to shoot the three and you're down, you can come back in games real fast. So I'm hoping, because Kobe White has shown he can shoot threes, that'll help a little bit. And you hope that Vucevic warming up more will help that a little bit. That DeMar DeRozan, the three, isn't his game, but you want to see that percentage increase a little bit. I don't see a scenario where the Bulls are suddenly going to be the Golden State Warriors and just raining threes, but you would like to see that improve a little bit, because now more than ever, I feel like shooting the three-pointer is important.
It is important. And, DeRozan can shoot a three, but his sweet spot is a couple feet within the 3-point line. And then he's deadly. And, I'm fine with it. But, we've seen him hit those corner threes. And when he gets an open look, I feel confident with him doing it. He doesn't attempt them a lot. Yesterday's game, he had 28 points and he only shot 4 3-point attempts. Zach's a decent 3-point shooter.
Yeah, he can make them.
But I mean, your volume 3-point shooter is probably Lonzo.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And we could talk about the starters. The starters is one thing. For me, I think the bigger concern is the bench. And, Alex Caruso, he can make the three. He can absolutely make the three. But, he doesn't take 3 shots very often. He'll take them every now and then, but he doesn't take them nearly as much as, maybe some would like to see. I'm not saying he's got to go out there and pop a 3 every time, but, maybe you'd like to see him shoot it a little more. But, like I said before, I really wish the Bulls had a guy like a Kyle Korver that could just go out there and just pop them.
Yeah, Lonzo Ball, I'm looking at the stats, is the leader in the number of 3-point shooting. And
is that percentage or made?
Both. In the volume that he takes it. And Patrick Williams actually has the highest 3-point shooting percentage. But he hasn't taken very many. DeSumo is second, but he hasn't taken that many either. But of the guys that have taken a solid chunk of 3-point shots, Lonzo Ball is shooting 41%, and he attempts 6.6 3-pointers a game.
All right.
So Lonzo is our best 3-point, and that's something he's clearly worked on.
Oh yeah, he's worked on shooting period the past few years.
And how much do you think that the Lakers regret letting go of Caruso?
Oh, they're kicking themselves.
They gotta be. That was such a sneaky good move.
Yeah, AK really got a winner there. The difference that guy can make just it's the little things. It's the little things that make such a big difference.
Yeah, so right now the Bulls are tied with the Heat for second seed.
Philly won.
Yeah, Phillies won by half game.
Yeah. Well, those 2 wins against the Bulls helped them.
Yeah. Golden State has got the best record in basketball. They're good. Man, the Pelicans are bad.
What's their record? I haven't even looked.
1-10.
Ooh.
They're 0-4 at home.
Oh, that's bad.
Yep.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yep.
Boy.
So I mean the Bulls look good. Like I said, is the depth, if they can keep developing guys, in the bench mob, that would be fantastic. Patrick Williams comes back healthy sooner rather than, in that timeline of getting healthy. If he comes back sooner, like comes back in, the February-ish time range, I think that's huge for the Bulls. But they're thin. They just need to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But I quickly want to touch on the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah. Big news. Big news on Saturday.
I didn't really want to talk about them, but then we got the big news that the Blackhawks fired Jeremy Colliton. Finally.
Yeah. Listen, I have nothing against the guy personally. He was a guy with little experience, thrown into a big job, and was basically hired to be the yes man to Stan. I think that with the right seasoning and the right growth that he can be an effective coach one day. He was just nowhere near ready. He was way over his head when he was there. The system was not working at all. The practices that they were implementing with guys just standing around in practice and watching select guys at a time with drills, not working. And you get their first game with their interim head coach, and they only give up 20 some shots. And you win in overtime. I didn't really see the game, but when I looked at the box score and saw they only gave up so many shots to a pretty good Predators team, it's like, maybe this system was a big part of why the defense was failing. Not saying this is a long-term solution. I think everybody in this organization understands that the structure that is in place is interim and that everything is going to be rearranged and finalized in the offseason. I mean, this season's a wash. Honestly, there's no saving the season. The season is over. You just got to get through it so you can make your changes when you need to. But yeah, you just couldn't keep going with that system because you were getting embarrassed night in and night out.
Absolutely. It just, you didn't have a professional coaching system in place. Like you said, the reports that leaked out about what practices looked like and how bad they were. You saw where he just handed the clipboard over to players and let them design their play at the end of a game. Like it was not how you would want. Like, that is not how Joe Quenneville would have done it. That's not how winning coaches would do it. And the Blackhawks, their interim general manager, brought in the coach of the Ice Hogs promoted him up, Derek King, and he looks, it's been a short amount of time. He looks like he belongs there much more.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is, and again, this is us not saying he's going to be the long-term solution, but, you know, I feel like he at least has the experience because if I know correctly, he's older than Carlton, and I believe he's got more experience than Carlton had.
Yeah, he's almost 20 years older than Colliton.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, that's when you're a more experienced guy and you've been around the block more when it comes to coaching, you're going to have a better understand of how these things work. So, you know, I feel like a coach like him, while he might not lead you to the promised land, he'll at least be able to kind of create some stability within the team.
I mean, and that's, you know, it just you just have a more of a presence there because he's clearly older than everybody else. He's played hockey. He's in his 50s. He's a much more physically imposing person. I think he's like 6'3". He's a fairly tall guy. He's a big guy. Looks like a hockey coach. You know, and then the personality was there. Like, I'm sure you've seen some of the clips, the interview clips.
Mm-hmm.
He's winning over the media. I'm sure he's winning over the players too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too.
You know, so you know, it just, he seems very appreciative of the opportunity. He's very earnest what he's saying. There's a level of humor in what he says. I appreciate it. Do I think he's the long-term answer? I doubt it.
Hey, he's got nothing to lose at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no matter what, it's not like he's going to get fired. They'll just move him back to Rockford.
Right.
But you know, I would imagine that the Blackhawks are going to bring in some veteran, you know, type coach. I'm trying to even think of who, like Boudreaux.
I think Claude Julien's available. Mike Babcock's available. John Tortorella's available.
I don't want Tortorella.
Yeah, here's the thing. Why would Tortorella want to come to a rebuilding team?
Rick Tocchet.
Claude Julien kind of intrigues me. I don't know if I'd go Mike Babcock at this point.
I don't either. I mean, at one time I would have been like, oh yeah.
Oh, I would have jumped. Yeah, I mean, 2014, I would have jumped all over that.
But I mean, they're going to have their pick of veteran coaches that they could bring in, and you know, so Derek King is going to get sent back down to Rockford, but I think it's good to have a clean just break of everybody and level set with this organization. And I think having at least an interim head coach allows you to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you had suggested something to me in a text today that you wanted to do for this show, and I thought it was a good idea.
Yes, I do, because, you know, our last few shows have been kind of depressing and dark, and I really wanted to light the mood for this show. So I want to introduce this game, just wacky sports stories, where you and I go back and forth and we tell our favorite wacky sports stories. You know, whether something weird happened, you know, your favorite what the hell was that moment? It could be something on the field. It could be something that happened, off the field that was reported later, something weird, wacky, and something you can just laugh at. So to officially introduce this game, I'm going to cue up some music here, and we are going to get this rolling. Okay, so part of this game is going to be assigning these wacky stories a trophy. This is more than any other trophy. This is one of our typical topics we talk about. And by that, I mean one of our stupid made-up things that's going to be made into a trophy. So we're going to tell a story. One of us is going to tell our favorite sports wacky story. And the other person is going to assign that story a trophy. Here are your trophy selections. The Marty Havlat Crockpot, TLR's TWTW bag, John Lackey's spittoon, Sean's puking stilts, Benny the Bull's bag of stale popcorn, and a rotten pumpkin left over from Halloween from Gallagher Way that Tom Ricketts could not sell. Those are your prizes. Sean, do you have any questions before we begin?
Is there a ranking system of those prizes?
No, but the grand prize, I've already determined this. All the prizes are equal except one. John Lackey's spittoon is going to be like the Stanley Cup of all this. That is going to be the grand prize. Everything else is pretty even.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
And when I went through these, I did some oddball stats, some oddball moments, some oddball injuries. And
yes,
I mostly tried to tie them into Chicago in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's good. I feel like our listeners will like that the most. So, what do you say? Let's play.
All right. I'll go ahead and start.
All right.
In a game in 1990, the White Sox got no hit by the Yankees, and they won 4-0.
Yes.
It was walks and errors led to 4 runs, and it was Andy Hawkins threw a no-hitter and lost 4-0, and the Yankees all were congratulating him after the game, but he was still pissed because he gave up 4 runs and got the loss.
Oh, that is awesome.
And the man that led the start of the scoring, Sammy Sosa.
Wow, now that I didn't know.
He reached on an error by Mike Blowers, and then he stole second base, and then Ozzie Guillen was the next batter, and he walked. And then it was Lance Johnson, Robin Ventura, Ivan Calderon. So that you ended up giving up 4 runs, and the White Sox won the game even though they didn't have a single hit.
That is a good one. So for my first wacky story, we're going to stick with the White Sox. We're going to stick with the Southsiders. This was a bit more recent. The 2016 baseball season, when you think of Chicago, you obviously think of the world champion Chicago Cubs. However, in 2016, the White Sox did end up making some headlines. They're just not necessarily headlines you'd want your team to be in. This particular headline was something that I could not believe, and I don't think most people could believe it either. It was a start later in the season, mid-late season. The White Sox weren't really going anywhere, but there was speculation that Chris Sale might be dealt. Then all of a sudden, in a game he was supposed to start in, we heard that he was not going to be making this start. And all the rumors spread around. What happened? Is he getting traded? Is he injured? Is he sick? Why is he not at the ballpark? What's going on?
He turned into Edward Scissorhands.
He cut up the jerseys, the throwback jerseys, because he didn't like them. And that was initially reported by my brother Jason, who wrote for him, his boss at the time. He was the first person to report it. And when I first saw that report, I thought it was a joke. And then all of a sudden, other reports are coming in with the same story. And I'm thinking, there's no way this could be real. There's absolutely no way this could be real. No way. But it was. He didn't like the jerseys, so he cut them up. Is that not wacky?
That's the Florida and Chris Sale coming out.
Florida man rips up jerseys. I love it.
All right. My next one is an oddball injury. Former Cub Chris Coughlin once tried to hit a teammate in the face with a pie and tore the meniscus in his knee.
Oh my goodness.
So that is an oddball one. When you try to hit your teammate with a pie in the face and wind up missing the rest of the season.
Wow. That is a story. You're walking around, injured on crutches. So what'd you do? Did you get injured in a game? Nah, I threw a pie.
Oh, Bozo the clown over there.
We were playing Bozo Buckets, and boy, did things get hairy.
In the grand prize game.
This next wacky story might not be known by a lot of people, but it happened. Back in 2007, the Blackhawks had a player who had a pretty, decent career by the name of Tuomo Ruutu. This was back before the Blackhawks became relevant again, November 07. So these were the days, which kind of don't look that different from the past few weeks, but when the United Center was empty, Blackhawks games weren't watched on television for multiple reasons. And, they just weren't relevant. The faces that were on the Blackhawks weren't talked about nearly as much. And, Tuomo Ruutu was part of that 07 team. Well, one day he was on a walk and the police were looking for a suspect that was involved in a robbery in a Chicago suburb. Tuomo Ruutu happened to look just like this guy and meet the initial description. So they detained Tuomo Ruutu. The police did when they saw him walking down the sidewalk. And then they finally realized this isn't the right guy. This is a true story. If you don't believe me, look it up.
Oh, that's very fitting.
I mean, could you imagine Patrick Kane being mistaken? Could you imagine any other big Chicago sports star? Could you imagine Zach LaVine or Alex Caruso or Anthony Rizzo when he was still here getting mistaken for a criminal? You would never think of it. But here's Tuomo Ruutu, a player on an Original Six franchise, not being recognized by the police and getting arrested.
Well, I don't know if you saw the Malice in the Palace documentary.
I did. I actually just watched that recently.
Where the security or the police didn't recognize Reggie Miller. Like, Reggie Miller is a really distinct looking dude. Like, he's not nondescript. He's like 6'7" and has those bad teeth. Like, you recognize Reggie Miller.
Yes.
And they just didn't recognize him as a player on the Pacers.
And that's not just any player.
Yeah,
that's Reggie Miller.
Yes. But my next one, this is a game involving the White Sox again. In a 1994 game between the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago White Sox, The White Sox challenged Indians star Albert Bell's use of a particular bat, claiming it was corked. The home plate umpire confiscated the bat and put it in his locker to be examined after the game. At that point, the Indians panicked. They knew the bat was corked, so they sent pitcher Jason Grimsley through the ventilation system into the umpire's locker room with a non-corked bat that belonged to Paul Sorrento. And he got away with the switch, but the umpires knew was something up. Why they knew that there was something up? Because the bat that they left had Paul Sorrento's name on it.
Oh no. I had no idea of this story. None.
It is like dumb baseball's version of Ocean's 11.
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine a player just in uniform crawling through the vents?
Oh man.
And what year was this?
1994.
So right before the baseball strike happened.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. That is awesome. Whew. Okay. This next wacky story happened just a few years ago, and it is very memorable, but we have to talk about it because of how memorable it was. Before the Bulls season even started, drama had already been uncovered within the Bulls team. In practice, preseason practice, Bobby Portis and Nikola Mirotic getting into it, and Bobby Portis just punching him square in the face. If that didn't sum up Bulls basketball at the time, I don't know what does.
And Randy Brown was in the background calling Garpax.
Beautiful.
All right. Trying to top my last one. Former Chicago Cub Glenn Allen Hill once had a dream that he was being chased by spiders. And in his sleep, he got out of bed and started running in his sleep away from said spiders, where he's actually running. And in his house, he ended up crashing through a glass table, cutting himself, bruising himself, and going on the disabled list for 20 days because he was running away from spiders in his dream.
Oh my goodness. Was that like 98, 99, 2000?
I didn't write down what year that was.
I just know that was around the time he played with the Cubs, but wow.
It was not while he was with the Cubs, though.
Oh, it wasn't while he was with the Cubs.
No.
Okay.
I was trying to do this with, like the Chris Coughlin one. He was with the Marlins at the time.
Yeah,
but he
was with the Marlins.
At least some sort of connection. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Glenn Allen Hill was a Cub, but it was while I don't remember what team it was. But yeah, he was on the disabled list for 20 days from his injuries, crashing through a glass table while he was running from imaginary spiders.
Wow. Yeah, that's something, because I feel like sleepwalking is a pretty common thing. It is a common thing, but man, imagine having to go.
Sleep running is not a common thing. It's
not. It's not. It really isn't. I feel like, there is obviously, with people who could sleepwalk, there's obviously a risk of injury. It's just, how often do you hear about a player, a professional sports athlete, getting injured because of that? Like, I can't think of any other story like that.
So it was in 1990 when he played for the Blue Jays.
Oh, so that must have been really early on in his career.
Yeah, because he had an extreme case of arachnophobia.
Which, arachnophobia is very, very, very common, and just not sleep running and going on the disabled list because of that. Wow. Yeah, that's yeah, I did not know that. I didn't know that at all. Huh. Okay, so I have one more, and it involves another wacky injury. And I was debating about using this one just because I feel like it's been a topic of conversation again, but this is another one of those you never really think of it. I believe it was '04. Sammy Sosa went on the disabled list because of a violent sneeze. Do you remember that?
I have that on my list.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
It's in my injury category.
Yeah, look at that. I kind of had a feeling that's a pretty commonly talked about one, but I feel like one of us had to mention the Sammy Sosa sneeze. And hey, look, I've had violent sneezes, and some of them hurt like hell your back, but usually they just tense up for a minute and then it relaxes. I haven't had lasting injury because of a sneeze.
I always laughed at that one. And then a couple of years ago, I had a sneeze and my back was stiff for like 2 days. And I was like, all right, I owe an apology to Sammy Sosa.
Nah. But since you and I had that same one, there was another thing I wanted to bring up that always amused me, no matter how, and this wasn't just one event. This is a habit of a player that is wacky. Sticking with the Cubs, Moises Alou. That was a dang good ball player. You know where I'm going with this.
This is why people fist bump him.
Yes. He made a regular habit of urinating on his hands to toughen them up before games. So imagine being Moises Alou, just going to the bathroom, yanking his pants down, just putting his hands in front of there and just peeing on it and thinking, yeah, this will make my hands nice and tough. Clearly it worked. I mean, he had a really dang good career. I just never would have thought the source of your talent would be wee-weeing on your hands.
Yeah, and he didn't wear batting gloves.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Have you ever seen his stance from like the side?
Yeah.
His knees like bend inward.
Mm-hmm. Like pigeon-toed.
Like, just how?
I don't know if it helped kind of keep his balance, but yeah, it was an odd, very compact, odd stance.
And he had wee on his hands.
All right, I'm going to go through a couple. Was your last one?
I could rattle off a few more. I'll let you spew a few more.
Yeah, I'll give a few here. I'll give the rest of my weird injury ones.
All right.
I had the Sosa going on the disabled list from sneezing. One time Derek Rose sat on a knife because he was cutting up an apple in bed, and he said he was too lazy to put the knife away, and he sat on the knife and cut himself and had to get 10 stitches.
Ugh. That could have ended really bad.
Former White Sox Ronald Belisario broke his shoulder trying to jump out of a pool.
I don't remember that.
And former Cub Milton Bradley tore his ACL while he was getting ejected from a game.
Ooh, but why does that not surprise me?
Is he was going after the umpire and Bud Black tried to pull him away, and during the scrum, Milton Bradley tore his ACL.
Wow. I mean, hey, go all out, I guess, when you're getting ejected.
Pretty much.
Ooh, jeez. That's got to hurt your confidence, right?
Be pissed at your manager.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm going to go a little off topic with Chicago sports. This was something that happened a very long time ago, but this is nuts. You ready for this?
Yes.
The world's longest boxing match between Andy Bowen and Jack Burke lasted for more than 7 hours, during which 110 rounds were fought. The historical fighting duel on April 6th, 1893, was eventually ruled no contest. 110 rounds.
How did they not die of exhaustion?
That's what I'd love to know. And this happened in New Orleans.
This was hot and muggy.
I mean, good grief.
I've got a few Bears ones here. I'm just going to
All
rattle
right.
them off in one kind of lump. During the NFL's first 6 seasons, the Bears had 34 shutout wins in 6 years. In the 1932 NFL championship game, it was the first NFL game to be played indoors inside the Chicago Stadium.
Yes, against Portsmouth.
Yes. There have been 5 NFL games in the history of the NFL that have ended 2-0. And the Bears and the Packers have played 2 of those games.
Interesting.
In the 1940 NFL championship game, where the Bears won 73-0, during the fourth quarter, the officials told George Halas that the Bears had to go for 2 points every time instead of kicking a field goal because they didn't have any balls left except for the one that was being used in the game.
Oh my goodness.
On the day that Gale Sayers scored his 6 touchdowns in one game, Paul Hornung of the Packers had scored 5 touchdowns in that same day.
That's nuts.
In the 1983 NFL draft, in the one draft, 1983, the Bears chose Richard Dent, Jimbo Covert, Willie Gault, Tom Thayer, Dave Dewerson, Mike Richardson, and Mark Bortz, all starters for the 85 Bears. And the last 2 I have for the Bears in Super Bowl 20, that it took 16 plays before the Patriots got a positive yard. And at the end of Super Bowl 20, the Patriots had rushed for 7 yards.
They gave up 7. They clearly weren't up to the task.
11 carries for 7 yards in the Super Bowl.
Oof. Yikes. Here's another wacky baseball one I have. And you might know this story. The St. Louis Browns, a team that existed in the shadow of the St. Louis Cardinals. Good old Bill Veeck, who is no stranger to crazy promotions, decided to pull off one with a player named Eddie Goodell. Eddie Goodell was 3'7". Yeah, huh? The shortest player to ever participate in a major league game. Eddie wore number 1/8. That was literally his number. Made only 1 plate appearance in his entire career, and he walked on 4 consecutive pitches, and he was eventually replaced by a pinch runner. He was given stern instructions by Bill Veeck not to swing, literally saying, "I'm going to be up on the roof with a high-powered rifle watching every move you make. If you so much as look as if you're going to swing, I'm going to shoot you dead." Veeck claims he took out a $1 million life insurance policy just in case.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I knew all the first part. I didn't know anything about the rifle part.
I didn't know that either. Like, I wanted to put in the Eddie Goodell thing, and then I kept reading. I'm like, what?
So one more Bears one that's about their logo. So the Bears is the current C logo that they have was actually the Chicago Cardinals logo. And when they moved out of Chicago, the Bears took the logo, changed the colors, and then used it as their logo.
Nah, stealing it.
It's ours now.
It's mine. It's mine. So I have one more final. I shared all my Chicago ones. This is my final one that I want to share. And this is one where I figured I wanted to go somewhere where, you know, I didn't really know much about. Like, I kind of did research, like, what are some crazy sports stories that I didn't know about? And here's one. In July of 1933, Art Rooney Sr. paid the $2,500 NFL franchise fee, but his son, Art Rooney Jr., kept the franchise alive after 2 impossibly lucky days at the track. And, you know, we're talking about Pittsburgh here. The details are somewhat sketchy, but according to Jr.'s self-published autobiography, AGR picked up as many as 11 straight winners in that 2-day spree and won an undetermined amount of money, which may have totaled upwards to $380,000. Roy Blount, in his book about the Steelers and the Rooneys, said it was probably the greatest individual performance in the history of American horse playing. Nobody has disagreed. The Steelers, at the time were called the Pirates, never had a winning season in the 1930s and were likely only kept afloat from Rooney's talents at the track.
That's an interesting one. I'd never heard that before.
I never heard that either. That's amazing.
I have one last one.
All right.
And I feel like we go out with a bang with Harry Carey.
Of course.
Harry Carey used to enjoy telling people different years that he was born. And so when he passed, the Tribune ran an obituary stating that he was born in 1919. The Cubs media guide said he was born in 1920. But it wasn't until almost 2 decades after he was dead that they officially confirmed through health records that he was actually born in 1914. So his employers didn't even know when he was born.
Yeah, that's why I saw so many different varying dates, like when they were doing tributes. Like, yeah, the WGN TV, they posted the graphic of him saying 1920, and there was one that said 1918. It's like, well, which one was it? And so, yeah, it is confirmed now that it was 1914.
Yep, he was confirmed to have been born in 1914 through Social Security records and health records.
All right, there you go. All right. So I think we got to start giving out these awards.
All right. How should we do this?
Okay. Let's see. First, let's go trophy by trophy. We're going to save John Lackey's spittoon, the grand prize, for last. First on the list, we have Marty Havlat Crock Pot. Now, let's think about all the stories we told. Which one do you think would fit the Marty Havlat Crock Pot the best?
Oh, Marty Havlat Crock Pot. I would probably go with Nikolai Mirotic getting punched in the eye.
Boom! I love it.
Because that was the sound Randy Brown was making while he was on the phone calling Garpax.
Who is this?
What's going on down there? Oh.
Perfect. All right. We're giving that to Nikola Mirotic. Next, we have Tony La Russa's decrepit, canvas, faded, stained, patched TWTW bag.
Oh, oof. That's got to be an injury one. Man, I'm gonna go with Sammy Sosa sneezing because that's like an old man type TWTW saying, and it's an old man thing to have is hurt your back from sneezing.
All right. So TLR's TWTW bag goes to Sammy Sosa in the sneeze. Next, we have Sean's puking stilts.
Oh, the puking stilts.
Blah, blah, blah.
I think we go with Derrick Rose sitting on a knife.
Okay. All right. I dig.
Because
Puking stilts go to D Rose.
Because that could have easily been a super puke moment, depending on where that knife went.
Oh yeah. Ooh,
if he would have got a colonoscopy from his knife.
Oh God, you just had to say that. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Moving on. Benny the Bull's bag of stale popcorn.
Ooh. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I kind of feel like we got to give that to Glenn Allen Hill because, like that dream, chaos ensues when Benny the Bull brings out his bag of stale popcorn.
Okay, I'm with you on that.
Okay, so stale popcorn, that goes to Glenn Allen Hill. The rotten pumpkin left over from Gallagher Way.
Man, the rotten pumpkin.
Just think about it, just big deformed blob with flies buzzing around it.
Man, what were the rest of the stories that you told?
Eddie Goodell.
I know that's
Jr.
the rotten tomato or the rotten pumpkin. I'm gonna go with Chris Sale and sitting there in his poopy diaper, cutting up his jersey with scissors because he didn't like the cut of it.
That's perfect. All right. Chris Sale gets the rotten pumpkin from Gallagher Way. And drum roll, John Lackey's spittoon, the grand prize, the Stanley Cup, the Commissioner's Trophy. I nominate Crawling Through the Vents to try to replace the bat.
Yeah,
that is gold.
Jason Grimsley, didn't he pitch for the Cubs too at some point?
He might have. I'm going to look up his baseball reference page.
I believe he did.
Let's see. Jason Grimsley. Two-time World Series champion.
No, he didn't.
No, he did not. He played for Philly, Cleveland, the Yankees, the Royals, Baltimore, and Arizona. He won 2 World Series championships, according to this. So that would have been 99, 2000 New York Yankees.
That's probably where I know the name. But yeah, Jason Grimsley climbing through, and he's not a little man. He's 6'3", 180, and they sent him through the vents to steal the bat back.
His Wikipedia page. Grimsley is known for his leading role in the 1994 bat burglary involving Abra Bell and an allegedly corked bat that was taken away by umpires for examination. Grimsley was the player who crawled through the Comiskey Park air conditioning duct to reach the room where the confiscated bat had been secured. He looked the corked bat and replaced it with a clean bat. Not accounted for in this plan, however, was the fact that Bell's bat had his name on it and the replacement had teammate Paul Sorrento's name on it instead, leading to the heist being caught before the end of the day. The incident made ESPN.com's biggest cheaters in baseball list at number 4. The next season, he was used mostly as a reliever, making only 2 starts. So that's where that story ends. That is so funny.
Oh my God. I'm just picturing the plan that went involved. And they're like, Albert, you've got to go get that bat. No, I'm worried I'll get stuck in the vent and I'll never get out. To Jason, you got to go. All right, I'll go.
He kind of looks like Chipper Jones a little bit.
He does. I'm looking at I'm covering up the hat because on Baseball Reference he's got a Kansas City hat on, so I got to cover that up and his face looks just like Chipper Jones.
I don't know. I picture him as like this. I could be completely wrong about this. I don't know this guy. I don't know what he's like, but this kind of just, typical, proud, tough, but somewhat level-headed guy who's crawling through the vent, just swearing at himself every time he's crawling, like, God damn motherfucker, just as he's crawling through the vent. And I would love to be like on the other side of that duct, just hearing boom, 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 boom as he's crawling through.
Oh,
The good one, man. You told that story. So congratulations. You share the name along with Jason Grimsley on John Lackey's spittoon.
well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. We introduced some comedic ness into this to cover up for the Bears stinkiness. But please make sure you hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or get your pencils out, AlexanderJPatCreative.com, where you can follow Alex. And do you still have Alex Pat Sports Chat on Facebook?
Yes, I do. But that is also linked through AlexanderJPatCreative.com. That website is a creative portfolio of mine, all my podcasts, all my writings with Fansided and Alex Pat Sports Chat and many more. You could see all my works on this website. So yeah, check it out. Just you want to see anything I've done, go to AlexanderJPatCreative.com.
Do you have your paintings on there?
I do.
If you may not know, but Alex is a very good painter.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Please share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. And thank you so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like
Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7.
the Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.